Before I start, you're telling me this stupid video, my first video ever, got over 10,000 views in a month? You guys are crazy and dope as shit. Thank you. Anyways, with that out of the way, how could I not follow up that craziness with a sequel? As I said in that video, The Wind Waker is my favorite Zelda game, which actually isn't very unpopular as an opinion anymore. But what is an unpopular opinion, my second favorite Zelda game, is Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword is a lot different than Wind Waker, being much more linear in nature, which I don't dislike, though a lot of people do. One thing it has in common though is islands, though except for in the ocean, in this game they're in the sky. An island for me is an individual space that can be landed and walked on, so not all of these random rocks. Though in the original idea for this video, I was literally gonna rank all of these, so be grateful I didn't. Since you can go to the surface in this game and walk on it, I decided to throw in all of the surface areas as well. An area here is anything with a label on the map. Now I counted 32 different islands and areas, but if I missed somewhere that you think should have been included, let me know in a comment. With all of that being said, these are all of the islands and areas in Skyward Sword ranked from worst to best. Let's finally get into it. Starting off at number 32 is this literally nothing island inside the Thunderhead. I actually have no clue what happened here or if anything ever happens here. There might be a cutscene when you talk to Levius where you're standing here, but I have no idea. I couldn't find any information online about it, and I didn't want to replay the whole game just to find out. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is literally a nothing. Next off is this other literally nothing island in the main sky. At least it is right now. At one point, you can find a girl in her injured Loftwing here as part of a side quest. After the side quest, though, it becomes pointless like the previous island. At least he got some action once. Back inside the Thunderhead is a little island with only a gossip stone on it. Gossip stones are dotted around the game and give out random information. This one in particular tells you that you get a special prize if you beat the bug catching minigame in less than 2 minutes, but I was gonna finish in less than 2 minutes anyway, so this info is rather redundant. At number 29 is Goddess Chest number 9 Island. That's what we're gonna call it. Also, if I misnumber some of the Goddess chests, I'm sorry, but it literally does not matter, so I want no sass from you. Yes, you. See, unlike Wind Waker, a lot of these sky islands are just floating rocks with some grass and no real names, so we'll just have to make do. This one is underneath an island that does have a name, Fun Island, and has actual treasure on it, which is cool, but it's just a gold rupee, so it's nothing incredible. Next up is what I'll call Rainbow Island. This is an island inside the Thunderhead that has a rainbow. Go figure. It also has heart flowers to heal up at, and is where you drop off the pumpkin soup for Levius. It's pretty plain, and granted doesn't have treasure or anything, but it is unique in that it has its rainbow, so I'll give it points for effort. Back to just a plain island with treasure is number 27 with Goddess Chest number 5. This chest has a piece of heart, which to me is cooler than both the gold rupee and the rainbow. Really not giving me much to work with here.
That's what she said!
The next island is this one with Goddess Chest number 3. It's got the ruby medal in it, which is cool because I think the medals are exclusive to Skyward Sword, but don't hold me to that. Anyways, this island also has cool ruins on it rather than just being a floating sky rock. Upgrading from 1 Goddess Chest to 2 is this island with a silver rupee and a heart medal. The silver rupee is meh, but the heart medal is pretty neat and can really help when you're out exploring. You also get a little substance with this watery passage and a cave housing some mushrooms. Similarly to the last one, this next island also has a chest with a heart medal, but even better, rather than a silver rupee, there's a piece of heart to find here. This island's shaped like a little volcano and has some decorative shrooms and a gossip stone as well. At Island 23 is this one with 2 Goddess chests again, containing an empty bottle and the potion medal. We also finally get some action, unlike most of you, with this underground enemy called the Moldorm, I think. Even cooler, this next island has 3 Goddess chests to open. They give you the small seed satchel, heart medal, and potion medal. Quite the treasure trove of an island. This one is split in half, with one side only being accessible after you get the claw shots. It's kind of like Breath of the Wild's Dueling Peaks, before they were cool. Finally, for these simple treasure islands is this one containing the treasure medal and a silver rupee. To be honest, this island's kind of boring with just a bombable wall and some vines to climb around on, but I placed this one highest because it holds the treasure medal, which I find super useful by making monster item drops happen more frequently to upgrade all your junk. Breaking the top 20, we're also breaking the cloud barrier and taking a trip down to the surface. For our first and worst land area, we have the sealed grounds. This is the first place you go when you visit the surface, which is cool, but honestly, the imprisoned fights just leave too bad a taste in my mouth to rank this area any higher. Besides these fights, not a lot happens here, and as much as I love Skyward Sword, I really don't like these boss battles. At least, not the first and second one. The third one's okay. Going from bad to just boring is the Lanayru Caves. I don't know why this area gets its own name on the map, but it does, so it's on the list. Lanayru Caves is literally just a cave. It connects the different areas of the Lanayru province. It has some stuff in it, but it really is nothing special. However, what is special is you. If you've watched this far, you probably enjoy the video at least a little bit, so why not leave it a like? And if you want to see more from me, go ahead and subscribe too. I'm pretty new to this YouTube thing too, so drop a comment saying what kind of videos you'd like me to make. I'd love to see your suggestions. Going back up to the sky, we land on the Isle of Songs, an island with an actual name. You don't do a whole lot up here, but it is an important place for the story, where you learn new songs on your harp and watch Fee dance a bunch. Though it isn't anything crazy, I appreciate it for what it is. Just a quick fly away is Bug Rock. This island is one of the handful of minigame islands that this game has. The minigame here, the bug catching minigame, consists of running around the decently diverse island and catching certain bugs within the given time limit. I don't dislike the bug catching game at all, but it's just my least favorite by a little bit. Shout out my boy Crustle though. When I searched up Bug Rock on Google, Crustle was the first thing to come up, which did make me smile. Another minigame island up next, this time being Fun Island, home of Dodo and the skydiving minigame. This game is pretty fun and I actually really like it. A little bit of skill and a little bit of luck, that's how I roll. The only issue I could say with it is that once you get the special prize, a heart piece, unless you really love it, there's no real reason to come back. It does reward you rupees, but they're not so hard to come by in this game that playing for them is necessary. Now for the last minigame focused island, my personal favorite, Bamboo Island. This game has you slice a falling stalk of bamboo into as many pieces as you can. I find this game much more challenging than the others, and it took quite a few tries for me to get the special treasures at 28 slices. Part of the reason I really love this island though is the music. It's so zen and too good for this optional island. Back on the ground at number 14 is the Deep Woods. The rankings for this video are kind of weird, admittedly, because in a way I almost actually like islands like Fun and Bamboo Island more than the Deep Woods, but at the same time, I can't in clear conscience put an area with so much more to do and a whole dungeon under those islands, you know? That's not to say I dislike the Deep Woods though. If you watch my Wind Waker Islands ranked video, you know that I prefer brighter, happier areas to the scary ones. Now, the Deep Woods isn't scary, but it's kind of just a dingier version of the Faron Woods. It does have a dungeon, which is pretty cool, but it's just the first one, kind of a tutorial dungeon, and doesn't stack up to some of the other ones in my opinion. Our trip to the surface was short, and we're headed back up to the sky for a bit. At number 13 is Beetle's Island. Beetle's Island isn't necessarily that great, honestly, but you know what is great? Beetle. We love Beetle around here, and gosh darn it, we will support our friends. Being a huge Wind Waker fan, I have a connection to Beetle, and having him in this game is amazing. Not to mention his side quest where he loses his pet beetle, and you see him sitting alone and sad at his campfire. Relate. I will help you, my brother. Using my own rules at number 12 is Levius. Levius is basically a moving island, an epic looking, gentle giant. He's literally a flying boss battle. I've heard online that people don't really like this fight, and I can kind of understand if you're only talking about the combat, but looking at the atmosphere and the fact that you're fighting on his giant back, It's wild, it's scary, it's dope as shit. The last island for a while, Pumpkin Landing. Pumpkin Landing is the island that is home to the Lumpy Pumpkin. A cozy bar and inn with live music and warm pumpkin soup. How could you not like this place? Joy is the only emotion felt here. The environment is nice and the people are nicer. Pum is the owner and acts as like your girlfriend's gruff dad who secretly likes you. The music minigame that you can play is an absolute treat, and so is Pum's daughter.
You, me, the moonlight, you do the math.
Would you excuse me while I powder my nose?
No problemo. She digs me.
Dropping into the top 10, we have the Lanayru Mines. This is where things really start getting good. It's where you're first introduced to the Lanayru province as well as the timeshift stone mechanic, which is one of Skyward Sword's most praised and memorable features. Personally, I'm not really a fan of technology in my Zelda games. I prefer the medieval feel, but I give the timeshift stones a pass because they usually bring back color and life in this game. The Lanayru Mines isn't a very big area, so I can't rank it any higher, but it is a glimpse into a cool feature that gets used a lot more in this game. At number 9 is the Volcano Summit. This area is scorching hot and full of lava. This is the peak, the huge volcano's final stretch. The point of this whole area is basically just a build up to the fire sanctuary, which is awesome. It's a huge, imposing fire castle on top of a volcano. This place has scale and looks super impressive. But as you know, it's not about size, it's about how you use it. And I gotta say, it uses it. But also, it's just big and cool. And I really like the whole frog theme going on. I don't understand it, but I like it. I could be wrong, but what I think is Skyward Sword's biggest area is next, that being Lanayru Desert. This area is definitely a desert, dry and open, but also isn't just empty. It's actually pretty packed. Essentially, the main area is a maze of ruins that you've got to traverse, and scattered in 3 different areas are these switches you got to find and activate. After all of this, you can finally go to the dungeon, the Lanayru mining facility. This dungeon utilizes time stones, a staple in Lanayru, and has you traverse an ancient factory. I feel like this whole area is pretty much a tester for Breath of the Wild, testing out the openness and the technology. This is also where you get the dust bellows to blow away sand and dust. This area is pretty solid. It honestly gets drugged down by the final boss, Molderak. First of all, this Goma. Second of all, trying to blow it out of the sand is a pain and only works half the time. And third of all, the motion controls in this game have always been precise and fun for me, but in this one specific fight, my sword strikes literally never land. Normally, avoiding the eyes is a good thing, but not now, Link. For anyone that comments early, the reason the sealed grounds was so low because of the imprisoned fights and not boosted by the final massacre fight, Girahim fight, and basically the demise fight is because those do not happen in the sealed grounds. These technically happen in Hylia's realm. Every different name on the map is its own area. But basically, yeah. I already said why this is so high. The Bokoblin Horde is one of the most epic moments in any Zelda game, especially when coupled with the awesome Girahim fight. This fight is probably my favorite in the game, stabbing him through multiple layers of magic and eventually onto the ground where he pulls out a giant sword. It's just so cool. And whether you count the Demise fight or not, because it's technically up in the clouds, this area is still just straight up awesome. Also, for anyone else that comments early, I know it's called the Gust Bellows. I'm a Zelda nerd. I would never make that mistake. Gotcha. Just barely not making the top 5 is Lanayru Gorge. To be honest, the area itself is not that cool, but for some reason, I just like it. I like the parts where you have to claw shot through the gorge, and the minecart sections can be fun. And that's about it for the actual area, besides the overall desolate feel created by the dead trees and giant skeleton. Oh wait, giant skeleton. Did I mention you can bring all of this dead stuff back to life and create this serene, sacred area, and then talk to this now living dragon and fight in the Thunder Dragon Lightning Round? This is a boss rush minigame that can get you probably the best item in the game, the Hylian Shield. This prize is awesome and iconic, and completing a boss rush in a Zelda game is even more awesome. Lanayru Gorge is number 6. We start our dive into the 5 with Lake Floria. I love this area mostly for its scenery. You can't tell me this place isn't beautiful. There's a few enemies swimming around, but for the most part, this is a peaceful and gorgeous lake to swim through. It's also home to Furore, one of the 3 giant dragons, which gives it a level of sacredness kind of like Lanayru Gorge. All of that aside, if you've played Skyward Sword, you probably know why else this area is so high. Lake Floria is home to what's known as this game's greatest dungeon, the Ancient Cistern. I assume I'm talking to a bunch of Zelda lovers at this point in the video, so you probably know why it's so awesome, but I'll still give a short rundown. You start off in this middle area, which is kind of the main area of the dungeon, but throughout exploring, you end up descending into a purple, dark, evil-filled area full of zombified bokoblins. To escape, you've got to climb up a rope while the zombies follow you up. This is cool by itself, but like I said, if you're a Zelda lover, you've probably heard about all of the cool symbolism about climbing out of hell and into heaven, or however it goes, and that really just ties everything together. Finally, this temple has an awesome boss fight in Koloktos, this creepy metal giant. To finish it off, you've got to steal one of its swords and give it the old smackdown. This area is phenomenal. I would say that all 4 main areas, the Sky, Eldin, Lanayru, Faron, all get equal amounts of love in this game, probably. Otherwise, it would be unbalanced. However, unlike Lanayru's 5 different areas with spread out love, Eldin only has 2. And one of these accounts for basically just the Fire Sanctuary, which means that number 4, Eldin Volcano, basically accounts for the entirety of this quarter of the game, if that makes sense. So you know this area has to be good, just due to the size and amount of things to do here. I mean, it's nothing insane, but the whole time you're just traversing a volcano. That's cool! Unlike most areas where the respective dungeon boosts it up, this one doesn't really do anything for me. The Earth Temple is pretty average in my opinion, but honestly, that's fine. This entire freaking volcano makes up for the rest of it. Like me, I've got a killer bod, quite the smile, flowing locks, and can make you laugh. One small body part doesn't drag me down, does it? Heading off, the top 3 is the first main area you go to, Faron Woods. This is just the type of area I like. It's got some enemies, I'm not that boring, but for the most part, it's scenic, it's cute, it's homey, it's colorful, it's fun, and it even has fun characters. These little plant people and this one big plant people. It's great! The forest is basic, but it's a forest, what do you expect? It's also got the classic main giant tree, which is always neat. Not to mention, this area is layered. At one point in the story, the whole forest gets flooded and you've got to swim around and find all these musical fish guy, the Tadtones. They're so cute, and I love musical stuff too. Each time you come here, there isn't much evil. It's bright and fun, and that is something I absolutely love. At number 2 is the Lanayru Sand Sea. My favorite game is the Wind Waker. Can you tell? I just love sailing around and exploring, even if obviously there isn't as much as the Wind Waker. First of all, I think the idea is awesome. Swimming through the water with the time shift stone is such a fun idea. Speaking of fun, the minecart minigame is on one of the islands, and I freaking love this game so much. I don't know why, I love trying to beat the timer because it is actually pretty hard to do. I also love the music on the Sand Sea. It really sounds like you're exploring an ancient, desolate world. Even more so though, I love the sand ship. This is contested against the Ancient Cistern as best Skyward Sword dungeon for most people, and it has every right to be. Almost everyone likes time shift stones, and hitting the central one from different areas of the ship with your bow and arrow is super cool. For me personally, I've just always liked pirates. Wind Waker is my favorite game, and I've watched all of One Piece so far.
The One Piece is real! Can we get much higher? So high.
So, Go figure, I like pirates, right? With that in mind, the setting of being on an ancient ship and defeating the captain in battle is super fun, and I even think the Tantalus fight is pretty cool if you just pretend it doesn't look like that. It's funny how when it comes to your favorite things, you seem to have the least to say. If you haven't figured it out, my favorite island in Skyward Sword is Skyloft. How could it not be? This island easily has the most personality out of all of the other areas, and maybe even one of the best town areas in the entire franchise. This place actually feels lived in and like a true home that you can come back to and be safe. In fact, it's almost personality filled to a fault, as environments, Skyward Sword has some pretty good areas, a lush forest, a flowing volcano, a vast desert and an open sky, but all of its real life and soul seems to be on this island, which is great, I love it. But it would have been even cooler to see a settlement of Kikwis or something like that somewhere else. Anyways, Skyloft is full of side quests and people to talk to, and all of these people have personalities and feel like real characters, not just nameless townfolk. There are many nooks and crannies to explore all over with so much to do, I couldn't name it all. Not to mention, it literally has its own endgame dungeon, which just makes it even cooler. With all of that being said, Skyloft is my #1 island in Skyward Sword, maybe even favorite place in the entire franchise. Ooh, big statement right there. What's your favorite island or area in Skyward Sword? Did I miss one? Let me know in a comment, then go ahead and leave a like, and maybe even subscribe. Go ahead and check out my Wind Waker video if you haven't seen it. People liked it apparently for some reason. Anyway, bye.